Ulysses stands outside a bank in the freezing cold, wearing a heavy bulletproof vest. He is the newly appointed interim sheriff. 10 yards away, his own deputies raise their service weapons and aim directly at his chest. The town's mayor watches from down the street, issuing a chilling order over the phone. The lead deputy pulls the trigger. The bullet slams into Ulysses, sending him crashing backward. Inside, he hits the floor next to 2 amateur robbers. A terrified bank manager cowers in the corner, hiding behind an open heavy steel vault completely packed with stacked gold bars and millions in cash. Outside, the entire police force of this quiet Minnesota town racks their shotguns, preparing to execute their own sheriff. Beyond the police line, the town's population stands shoulder to shoulder, blocking every escape route. Ulysses checks the bullet hole in his vest, grabs a weapon, and realizes he is completely surrounded by an entire town of killers. Today, we are recapping the 2025 action thriller movie. The story actually begins 3 weeks earlier in Osaka, Japan. A Yakuza crime boss named Oyabun glares down at 3 kneeling men. He places 3 short blades on the floor. He orders them to sever their own pinky fingers to pay for a recent failure. 2 of the men slice their fingers off without hesitation. The 3rd man stares at the blade, his hands trembling. Oyabun draws a katana and swings it down, completely severing the hesitating man's head. He cleans his blade, then orders the 2 surviving men to pack their bags. They are heading to a small American town called Normal to guard a secret bank vault. 3 weeks later, Ulysses wakes up in a cheap motel room in Normal, Minnesota. He dials a number on his phone, listens to a voicemail greeting from his estranged wife, Penny, and hangs up. Outside, Deputy Mike waits in a police cruiser wearing a loud, squeaky leather jacket. Ulysses climbs into the passenger seat. He is the new interim sheriff, hired to fill the seat for 8 weeks after the previous sheriff, Gunderson, suddenly died. As they drive through the quiet streets, Mike points out the local diner and mentions the town just raised almost $17 million for a new town hall. Inside the local precinct, a resident yells at Deputy Sally over a neighbor parking a tow truck in his driveway. Ulysses walks right between them, calmly introduces himself as the new sheriff, and diffuses the argument. Deputy Blaine strolls in carrying a box of donuts. He tells Ulysses to keep the sheriff's badge warm until the town officially elects him. Ulysses ignores the joke and heads to the back office. He opens Gunderson's desk and pulls out a death certificate. It lists the cause of death as a heart attack, signed by a local doctor named Walter. Next, Ulysses unlocks the precinct armory. He flips on the lights and stares at metal shelves packed with military-grade assault rifles, grenades, and blocks of C4 explosives. Later that evening, Ulysses eats meatloaf at Ernie's diner. He stares at the walls, which are covered in antique shotguns and rifles. Ernie claims his grandfather collected them after the war. That night, Ulysses wakes up in a cold sweat from a nightmare. He hears a heavy thud outside his motel door. He grabs his pistol and steps into the freezing cold. A massive wild moose stares back at him. It has a bucket of red paint tangled in its antlers, dripping across the white snow. The next morning, Ulysses responds to a shouting match at the local hardware store. The owner, Maynard, is screaming at an elderly customer over prices. As Ulysses breaks them up, he notices a heavy steel cabinet in the corner secured with multiple thick padlocks. Maynard claims it only holds stump remover. Before Ulysses can press further, an elderly shopkeeper pulls him out of the store and into her yarn shop next door. She angrily points at a pile of mauve yarn on her counter, claiming she ordered pink. She also has a police scanner and a CB radio sitting on her desk. Ulysses stares at the yarn and admits he is colorblind. In the afternoon, the town holds a memorial service at Gunderson's massive house. Ulysses finds Mike standing near the open casket and accepts Gunderson's old star badge. Nearby, he spots Dr. Walter. Ulysses questions the doctor about the death certificate. Walter admits Deputy Blaine actually found Gunderson frozen to death in the snow at 3 in the morning, clutching an ice auger and a fishing pole. Mayor Kibner interrupts the conversation. He shakes Ulysses' hand and offers him the permanent sheriff job. Through the window, Ulysses watches Deputy Blaine forcefully block a young woman from entering the house. Mike whispers that she is Alex, Gunderson's daughter. That night, Ulysses sits inside the restaurant playing snooker with Moira, the bartender. They pour several drinks and discuss the late sheriff. Moira mentions how tragic it was that Gunderson died while ice fishing, doing what he loved most. Ulysses leans over the table and opens up about his own past. He explains that back when he was a sheriff in his old county, a young girl came to him accusing her father of abuse. Ulysses did not believe her. Days later, he responded to a shooting at her house and found the girl standing over her father's body with a pistol. She cursed Ulysses for ignoring her, then pointed the weapon right at his his face. They both fired at the same time, but Ulysses shot her first. He explains that after that day, something inside him went dark. His marriage fell apart, and now his estranged wife never answers his phone calls. The next morning, Ulysses walks past a vending machine and notices a woman named Lori aggressively punching the glass because her food is trapped inside. The moment Lori spots the sheriff approaching, she quickly tucks a handgun out of sight. Ulysses steps up and helps her clear the machine to get her chocolate bar. Nearby, Lori's partner, Keith, watches the interaction and instantly freezes up, backing away into the shadows before Ulysses heads back to his office. Later that night, Ulysses drives down a dark road and spots a truck parked on the shoulder. He walks up and finds Alex sitting inside the driver's seat, heavily drinking whiskey. Ulysses climbs into the passenger side next to her. He spots a gun in her possession and gently takes it away. He mentions seeing her childhood photos inside Gunderson's office and asks about her argument with Deputy Blaine. Alex explains that Mayor Kibner banned her from the memorial service because the mayor and Blaine believed she would be a distraction. Alex served in the military, and she claims the town used to know right from wrong before the current mayor arrived, and her father got caught right between her and the corrupt town, which ultimately cost him his life. Seeing that Alex has nowhere else to go and has not slept in days, Ulysses drives her to the police precinct, guides her into a secure jail cell to rest safely, and leaves breakfast by her side the following morning. A few hours later, Ulysses sits at his desk while Deputy Mike holds up a map to discuss town parade routes. Suddenly, the loud electronic bank alarm blares through the station walls. The entire room goes dead silent, and every deputy freezes in pure panic. Ulysses looks around, confused by their extreme fear. Over at the local bank, Lori and Keith stand in the middle of the lobby holding the staff at gunpoint. Lori tosses a canvas bag across the counter and orders the cashier to fill it up. The trembling cashier drops a measly $2,000 inside, explaining that people in this town rarely carry physical cash anymore. Keith grabs the bank manager, Terry, and forces him toward the heavy vault doors. Suddenly, an elderly customer collapses onto the floor in the middle of a massive heart attack. Keith panics, but Lori pulls the man's medication from his pocket and orders Keith to begin chest compressions. While the robbers are completely distracted trying to save the customer's life, one of the security guards, who is actually the Yakuza member Joe, discreetly pulls out a cell phone and sends a silent emergency alert directly to his boss in Japan. The second security guard suddenly lunges forward and drives a knife into Keith's shoulder. Lori instantly raises her handgun and opens fire. The chaotic spray of bullets grazes Keith's neck and drops the guards to the floor. Outside, Ulysses pulls up to the bank alongside Deputy Blaine and Mike. Ulysses spots Lori's dog sitting alone inside a parked truck. Realizing Lori is involved, he tells his deputies to cover him because he is going inside. Blaine and Mike look at each other in absolute panic. Blaine dials Mayor Kibner on his cell phone. Over the line, Kibner coldly orders Blaine to kill the sheriff immediately. As Ulysses walks toward the glass doors of the bank, Blaine raises his weapon and shoots him squarely in the back. The heavy impact violently throws Ulysses forward into the bank lobby, but his hidden bulletproof vest stops the round. Ulysses hits the ground, turns around in pure confusion, and immediately fires back out the door, blowing off a chunk of Blaine's ear. Deputy Mike blindly unloads his weapon through the windows. The stray police bullets tear through the lobby and kill the asthmatic customer on the floor. Ulysses dives for cover behind the counters next to Lori and Keith. Lori stares at Ulysses and demands to know why his own deputies are trying to kill him. Ulysses aims his gun at the cowering bank manager, Terry, and demands answers. Terry stammers that simply asking about the vault triggered this entire nightmare. Ulysses forces Terry to open the heavy steel vault doors. Inside, they find massive stacks of cash and shining gold bricks stacked to the ceiling. Realizing the massive secret he just uncovered, Terry panics. He dives for a hidden pistol inside his desk drawer, but trips, pulling the trigger and accidentally shooting himself dead. Mike tries to kick his way through the bank's back door, but Ulysses fires a warning shot through the wood to drive him back. Ulysses turns to the two amateur robbers, points out that the police just tried to execute him while they did not, and declares they are now a team. Suddenly, the bank's landline phone begins to ring. Ulysses picks up the receiver and hears Mayor Kibner's voice. The mayor reveals that the entire town of Normal is on the payroll of a Japanese Yakuza syndicate. The criminals use the quiet town to hide their illegal American profits, and every single resident takes a cut of the money. Anyone who disagreed with the arrangement, including the former sheriff, was quietly murdered. Kibner offers Ulysses a deal. Execute Lori and Keith, blame the robbery on them, and he can walk away with his life. Ulysses silently hangs up the phone. Keith and Lori pry open several military crates stacked inside the bank lobby and pull out a heavy grenade launcher. Just then, the massive winter storm finally hits the town, instantly knocking out the power grid. Standing in the dark, Ulysses aims the launcher through the shattered bank windows and fires. The explosive round flies down the street and violently blows Mayor Kibner into pieces. Ulysses fires several more grenades out into the street to scatter the corrupt police force, then leads Lori and Keith out the exit into the freezing snow. Inside the dark bank, Joe, the surviving Yakuza guard, realizes the storm has completely knocked out the cell towers. Thousands of miles away, Oyabun boards his private jet, flying straight for Minnesota to handle the disaster himself. Out in the blizzard, Ulysses, Lori, and Keith sprint through the snow, dodging police fire, and break into the local yarn shop. Ulysses bandages Keith's bleeding neck and asks Mary, the elderly shopkeeper, to use her battery-powered radio. Instead, Mary pulls out a heavy double-barreled shotgun and fires directly at them. Ulysses tries to disarm her, but she fiercely fights back. Lori lunges forward to protect Keith, grabbing a sharp knitting needle and driving it into Mary's throat, killing her on the spot. Down the street, Deputy Blaine and Mike take shelter inside an ice cream parlor. Mike rips away a hidden wall panel behind a freezer, revealing a massive stockpile of assault rifles and ammunition. Joe cowers in the corner, absolutely terrified of his boss arriving, but Blaine confidently racks his weapon and declares they will hunt Ulysses down before the storm passes. In the yarn shop, Ulysses decides their only escape route is stealing the police precinct's snowplow. The moment they step outside, the town mailman raises a rifle and unloads on them. Ulysses orders Lori and Keith to run toward the station while he crashes straight through the shattered front window of the hardware store. Inside, Maynard the shopkeeper ambushes Ulysses, dragging him into the dark aisles with a sharp metal hook. The massive man pins Ulysses to the floor and raises a heavy axe. Ulysses grabs a nearby can of bug spray, blasts it directly into Maynard's eyes, and drives a long metal nail into his face, killing him. Ulysses smashes the heavy padlocks off the steel cabinet and pulls out several bundles of dynamite and road flares. Outside in the freezing alley, the mailman empties his rifle and stops to reload. Keith pulls out a solid gold brick he secretly stole from the vault and bashes the mailman across the head. The mailman shrugs off the blow and violently overpowers both Keith and Lori. Just as he prepares to finish them off, the brutal winter winds snap a heavy wooden signboard above, sending it violently crashing down to crush the mailman to death. Deputy Blaine and his remaining officers swarm the street, closing in on the alleyway. Ulysses bursts out of the hardware store and hurls lit sticks of dynamite directly into the police line. Huge explosions rip through the snow, killing several corrupt officers instantly. Deputy Mike spots a sputtering explosive landing in the snow. Believing it is just a regular road flare, he runs over and confidently scoops it up. The explosive instantly detonates in his hands, blasting his lifeless body backward into a parked car. Lori and Keith slip through the station's back doors and climb into the massive city snowplow. Receptionist Sally creeps out from the shadows, racking a heavy shotgun and aiming it directly at the couple. Before she can pull the trigger, Ulysses bursts into the garage and violently shoves her backward. Sally trips over a heavy power cord and crashes into a hydraulic jack supporting a suspended police cruiser. The metal jack instantly snaps, crashing down to crush Sally to death. Ulysses hits the garage door controls and orders Keith to drive straight to the nearest hospital outside of town limits. He points to the gold brick Keith stole and tells them to use it to fund their second chance. Lori and Keith pull their dog into the cab and drive the roaring snowplow out into the blizzard, finally leaving the corrupt town behind. Ulysses locks the doors and heads straight into the precinct's armory. He grabs several assault rifles and begins loading magazines. Suddenly, Mora, the bartender, steps out from the shadows and fires a pistol point blank into Ulysses' chest. The bulletproof vest absorbs the brutal impact, dropping him to his knees. Mora keeps her gun leveled at his head and confesses everything. She admits she was the one who murdered Sheriff Gunderson, dragging him out into the freezing snow to die because he wanted to expose the town's secret to protect his daughter. Ulysses stares back and finally admits the truth about his own past. He didn't just watch that young girl shoot her abusive father years ago. Ulysses executed the man himself, and he has been running from the guilt ever since. Moira tightens her grip on the trigger, preparing to finish him. Before she can fire, a barrage of bullets rips through her chest. She collapses to the floor, revealing Alex standing behind the bars of the holding cell with a smoking pistol, finally avenging her father's murder. Ulysses unlocks the cell door and officially makes her his deputy. Alex immediately sprints out to the garage, climbs behind the wheel of a heavy armored police van, and smashes right through the precinct doors, running over the corrupt Dr. Walter in the street before speeding straight toward the bank. Ulysses grabs a police radio and contacts Deputy Blaine and the surviving Yakuza guard, Joe. He warns them that his new deputy is currently inside the bank vault, rigging the entire stockpile of Yakuza gold and cash with heavy C4 explosives. If they kill him, Alex blows the vault. Without the money, Oyabun will slaughter every surviving resident of the town. With the corrupt cops completely cornered, Ulysses proposes a truce. They have to quickly clean up all the blood, hide the bodies, and stage a massive car accident right through the bank's front doors. If they can convince the arriving Yakuza boss that the vault alarm was simply triggered by the winter storm and a bad crash, everyone gets to live. Blaine quickly realizes Ulysses is right. He agrees to the deal. Joe also knows his boss will execute him for failing, so he joins the cover-up. The surviving officers and townspeople frantically scrub the blood off the streets and drag the bodies out of sight. They stage a car crash directly into the bank's lobby, making it look like a tragic accident triggered the alarms. Soon after, Oyabun's convoy rolls into normal. Blaine greets the Yakuza boss, explaining that the severe winter storm knocked out the power and a reckless driver crashed into the bank. They escort Oyabun to the vault. The crime boss steps inside, inspects his massive pile of gold, and is completely satisfied that his treasure is safe. To celebrate, Blaine invites everyone to Ernie's diner for a massive feast. Oyabun sits at the head of the table, enjoying the famous meatloaf and speaking fluent English. He praises the town for their hospitality. Ernie steps up to the table and proudly pops the cork on a fresh bottle of wine. The heavy cork shoots across the room and strikes the trigger of one of the antique shotguns mounted on the wall. The loaded weapon instantly fires, blowing Oyabun's head completely off. Pure chaos erupts inside the diner. The furious Yakuza instantly draw their weapons and open fire on the corrupt police force. A massive, brutal shootout tears the restaurant apart. Ulysses dives into the kitchen and tackles Joe to the floor. The two men fiercely wrestle for a dropped handgun until Ulysses finally overpowers the Yakuza guard and kills him. Outside, Alex expertly guns down several Yakuza enforcers. By the time the gunfire finally stops, the streets and the diner are completely littered with bodies. The Yakuza syndicate and almost the entire corrupt town of Normal have wiped each other out. Only Ulysses, Alex, and Deputy Blaine are left standing. Ulysses calmly walks out of the kitchen carrying a plate of pie. The three survivors sit together in the ruined diner and eat in silence. Ulysses pulls off his sheriff's star and tosses it across the table to Blaine, officially leaving the town in his hands. 1 month later, Ulysses stands in rural Texas, filling in as an interim sheriff with Alex working right by his side as his new deputy. He dials his estranged wife's number one more time. This time, Penny finally answers. "My name is Sid." That's how the story ends. How did you like it? Let me know in the comments below.